All right, let's take a look at freight, see if volumes are still rebounding, see what the Midwest looks like, see what the Southeast looks like. So stay tuned right after this. About a minute. You'll be all right. All right, all right. Good morning. How are yous? How all are yous? Today is May 28th. May is almost over. And short week this week due to Memorial Day weekend. We didn't get to go out to my dad's grave this weekend because of the rain, which is kind of lame. I mean, it's literally been raining here. All the rivers and lakes are inflated, and it's been kind of messy. And so we haven't been able to do that. But we are here, we are alive, and I'm grateful for every minute that I'm alive. So, but anyways, we're going to take a look at some freight. I get an email every week from my good friend CDN Freight Broker. Make sure you go check out his channel, which is basically a report that he gets looking at freight. So we're going to read that a little bit today. I don't read everything completely because that would be boring, but so I was looking at low boards all day. So we're going to go over that. And so we're going to look at volumes. We're going to look at volumes on the 1, 2, 3 low board, and we're going to look at volumes on the DAT. And so if you're in here, I hope you have your morning coffee. I know I said morning coffee, but here we go. We got our sanctuary mug here. It's like my favorite cup. You would think that the Iron Maiden one would be, but it's small, right? If the Iron Maiden was this size, then it'd be kind of a toss up. But that's not important. You don't care about that. Godzilla here says you don't care about that. So, dispatch has been kind of slowish. So I've had a little bit extra time to take care of a few things. And we put our car in the shop. This is unrelated to freight. Maybe it is. Maybe it's related because it's a logistics thing, right? What I'm finding is one of the biggest challenges of owning a semi truck is that when it goes down, you can have the best warranty in the business, but the truck is down for a long time because they can't seem to get the parts shipments in good order. And At first, I thought it was just one brand, but it seems to be all the brands. You you put your truck in the shop and say, "Oh yeah, this should be done Monday," right? Then Monday comes along, you get the call, "Oh, they sent the wrong part. It'll be Wednesday." Then Wednesday comes along, they can't find the part. And then Wednesday, and then so Thursday comes along and then like, okay, we should be getting the part on Friday, but we can overnight it for an extra $500. There's countless story after story after story, and we're dealing with that with our car. So those of you who don't know, the carport was collapsed by a tree that fell during a storm about a month ago. And once we got the carport off the car, we decided to take the car into the shop. They originally totaled it, but we decided to keep the car because they total cars like that easily, right? And we can live with a couple of dents on the roof, but the glass on the top needed to be replaced. And and I've never been a fan of roof glass. I mean, it's kind of neat to have sunlight in the car when you're going down the road or whatever, but for the most part, it's just one more thing that breaks down. And so, just like power windows, like, I was fine rolling up my window. Power windows are not that important to me. But, paying $800 to fix a window or whatever it costs, that's dumb. But anyways, whatever glass vendor the shop is using, it must be partnered with International or PACCAR because they cannot send us the right glass to save their lives. And it's getting frustrating to the point that it's put us in bad moods. And I'm going to have to go down and say what gives. They've had the car for 3 weeks now, and it's been insane, right? But so imagine on the semi truck level, you're looking at possibly a $10,000-$15,000 repair, and they can't even get the parts in correctly. Oh, but if you pay an extra $500, they can get the parts here tomorrow. Now, a while back, I did a video talking to a big rig CEO, and he had talked about being proactive on getting your parts. And we've and there's plenty of examples of that where someone said, you know what, I'm going to rent a car and go get that part myself. If you have a choice of spending $100 on a rental car to go get that part or spending $500 and hope that the right part was shipped, I'm going to pick the rental car all day long. Let's move, let's go, let's get this going. And the shops, I don't think the shops realize or even care that the truck being down is cost you money every day. And and to me, it was one of the most frustrating things of owning a semi truck is the parts logistics, the long wait at the shops. I remember in the heart of COVID, I was at the Kenworth dealership getting my turbo looked at, and they literally had 35 trucks on the lot waiting on parts. That was during the chip shortage, sensors and all, all that kind of thing. We went from, trucks being able to carry spare parts in their side boxes, like to replace on the road if needed, to you can't even get the part in the country. So it's kind of a, so if you're looking at buying a semi truck, just keep that in mind. Again, you can have the killer bumper to bumper, nothing will cost you warranty. But if the truck's down for 3 weeks, can you pay your bills? Through no fault of your own. You could be the best budgeter. You could be the best. You can have the best credit. You can have 80 grand in the bank. But you're still waiting on the parts. You're still at the mercy of the dealerships and the shops trying to get their stuff in. And it's a system that's broken, to be honest with you. And that's something that you need to keep in mind when you decide you buy a semi truck. So let's get to the comments, and then we'll start looking at load boards. All right, we got My Name is Nobody. Good morning. Bull of the Woods, what's up? Gen Z, morning all. Hope everyone is staying profitable, not busy. Well, there's a correlation there. If you're busy, you might be profitable, but just because you're busy doesn't mean you are profitable. Isn't life? Look, Southbound Jay. Good morning. Isn't life just a series of whether we're profitable or busy or both or not, neither, right? So, Covered Wagon, what's up? Good morning from Edmonton, Alberta. Good deal. Flatbed Trucker, hello. Grind and Pray, Snorelord and chat. Good morning, folks, with a bunch of emojis. Trucking with T-Bone, good morning. Cascade, what's up? Good talking to you the other day. So, let's go over this email first. Let me show the screen here. This section is brought to you by CDN Freight Broker. There we go. As you can see, the overall market, man, we're almost in the neutral zone. But if you look at van, which is primarily what I work with, we're getting almost to the loose stage, which is good. Now, the darker the green, the easier it is to find a truck. When you get to the very tight, that's when we're all swimming in money and getting the rates that we all think we deserve. So, as you can see, we're at an upward trend. It was $1.99 in March, went down to $1.96. I have my glasses on, but I can't enlarge this picture. Well, I guess I can. Hold on. I can. $1.96, and now we're back up to $1.99. So we're hitting March levels, which is good, and we'll get into why that is. Then, of course, flatbed's on a steady incline as it usually is. Yeah, look at the flatbed market. We're almost to the tight category, which is good. And then reefers on an upswing as well, probably related to produce picking up and all that. This is unemployment. I didn't really stare at this other than transportation unemployment's at 3.6% right now, which is below the national average for everything. This really surprised me because, you hear about all the layoffs, big trucking companies going under and all that, but they sit there and say there's a driver shortage, yet these drivers find jobs and the unemployment is down to 3.6%. National spot rate report on DAT increased to $1.66 with 38 cents added for a fuel surcharge, combined rate of 204. National van is at $1.99. So we're almost at that $2 mark. National flatbed is at $2.58. National reefer is at $2.35. Contract rates at $2.10. So what we look at is when spot goes above contract, that's when you start seeing people flooding the spot market. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we're not there yet. The outbound tender reject index, which is capacity in the market, is at 6.60%. For anything above 6% is showing capacity is tightening, which is good news, which is what, basically these charts are telling you. Van is at 5.4. So we want to see that above 5, but we definitely would like to see it at around 6. The low was 2.3, so we're not there yet. Flatbed is at 29%. We'd love to see that. And then reefer's at 8%. So van is still the slowest as far as outbound reject, but it's easier to get the flatbed or the van contracts. You can buy 20 vans and throw them somewhere and boom, you got your contract. Here's some news. The White House stated on Sunday that the U.S. will delay implementation of a 50% tariff on goods from the European Union from June 1st until July 9th to allow time for negotiations with the BLOC. Chinese imports are expected to surge amid the 90-day tariff agreement between U.S. and China. So that's gonna throw some freight at us. The U.S. Senate voted last week to repeal a waiver granted to California that would have required a large part of the trucking industry to achieve zero carbon emissions by 2035, as well as banned the sale of all new gas-powered cars. Both the ATA and OIDA supported the repeal. It's very rare that you see them on board for the same thing. It's like a bipartisan deal with those two. Last week, DOT under the Secretary Sean Duffy rescinded a 2016 policy that allowed commercial drivers to remain in service if they are unable to speak English. This aligns with an executive order, White House requiring English proficiency. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration estimated about 3.8% of the CDL workforce is limited in English proficiency. Now, I want to say that might be higher, but right now we're sitting at 3.8%. So if you look at the CDL workforce in the millions, 3.8% is quite a bit. Oregon and Vermont have halted implementation of laws modeled after California's Advanced Clean Trucks rule in the wake of stakeholder pushback and shifting regulatory and legislative winds. So in other words, people are picking up that this really isn't helping anything, and it's bringing up everybody's cost. Think about the cost of operation to a truck that have been added because of the clean air stuff. Now, I'm not saying that all trucks need to be blowing smoke or whatever, but the way that it's being done is it's a costly addition to the truck. It used to be your biggest repair was the motor, rebuild or in-frame or whatever. But now the DPF can cost you just as much, if not more, especially over the length of time. So it's kind of interesting to see this paradigm shift. Freight rates from Shanghai to New York surged 19% for 40-foot containers. And Shanghai to LA went up 16%. After the U.S. and China agreed to pause reciprocal tariffs. April 25, U.S. transportation sector unemployment falls below April 24 level, 4.7, as well as the pre-pandemic level of 3.7. So transportation unemployment's the lowest it's been in a while. April also brought up a sharp contraction in trailer demand. Preliminary net orders totaled 9,400 units, down 32% year over year and 57% from March, according to ACT Research. The drop follows a surprising March spike, which analysts now believe was driven by early ordering ahead of anticipated tariffs. So in other words, everybody's getting their hands on the trailers because they want to store things. They want the ability to move them quickly, right? And if you can do a drop and hook situation, that's a good thing. Kraft Heinz is anchoring its $3 billion U.S. investment with a major facility in DeKalb, Illinois, along with upgrading their 30 other factories. This is their biggest spend in 10 years. So that's positive news, right? And then the CVSA announced July 13th through 19th as this year's Operation Safe Driver Week. This will have an impact on capacity during the event. It's never too early to inform your customers. Now, it says, market summary, the domestic transportation market is slowing due to tariff uncertainties disrupting freight volumes and supply chains. A recent 90-day tariff pause has triggered a temporary spike in ocean container rates as shippers rush to front-load imports. Yet domestic freight volumes remain flat, with truckload demand down nearly 10% year over year. Earlier this year, shippers leaned toward intermodal solutions, prioritizing cost over speed, and intermodal volumes have held steady. Despite the current lull, there's hope for a rebound this summer as an influx of 20-foot equivalent units, surpassing last year's levels, is expected to boost domestic freight volumes by late June, revitalizing the market as supply chain stabilize. And I'm already starting to see some volumes increase. So this is interesting to me. But so let's shops take incredibly long to repair trucks. Yes. We need all three to get into yellow or red. That's true. That's true. David Edwards, good morning. 3.8% would be a dramatic shift. Ronnie Dirty, good morning. Emissions are more expensive than drivetrain maintenance. Yes. I mean, that's, and coincidentally, that's the one that's got the lowest mileage warranty usually, is the emissions. Grind and pray, David Edwards, good morning. Grind and pray, T-Bone, good morning, brother. All right, so everybody's saying hi to each other. So, give me a second here. Let's go back to this chart here. Excuse me. All right, so reefer's almost in the yellow, almost. Flatbed's definitely in the deep yellow. We just need to get the van up there, and the fact that we're in the light green is kind of exciting. So, but let's take a look at some low board stuff. Let's see. This is the 123 low board. Go to 123lowboard.com 48065 if you want to try this low board out for free. There's a lot of low boards, but you have to pay big money for the tools. Let's see. Let's go to Van. One of the tools I use every single day is this hot market map. And then DAT, I also utilize it. A combination of the two, it's a perfect team. Let's refresh this, by the way. This is like half an hour ago. Let's see. Georgia's at 22.12 going in and 46.74. Now, this was only at 33 just an hour ago, not even an hour ago. Florida still has 1,800 coming out. Iowa's dead. Illinois, almost even, but there's still a bit more in than out, but they're at 23.19. These are all 4-digit numbers. There was a time where these were all 3-digit numbers coming out of the Midwest. Indiana's about even. Kansas is not great. Kentucky has been good. Kentucky's been good for a while. Kentucky and Tennessee are sleeper states usually, and they've been pretty good. Missouri 1091 in, 1328 out. So Missouri's actually doing a little bit better than, say, where's Ohio at? Well, not volume wise, but in and out ratio is better. Ohio's 2400 in, 2020 out. What was Indiana? Oh yeah, Indiana was 1514 out, about even. Illinois is 2544 in and 2319 out. Mississippi looks good, 498 in, 717 out. North Carolina, 240 out, 2400 out. Let's see, Nebraska, stay on Nebraska. That's no good. North Dakota, same. New Jersey, 1213 in, 942 out. Now, usually New Jersey is more out than in, and here lately they have not been doing that. Same thing with Maryland. Pennsylvania's been slow too. Yeah, Pennsylvania 2477 in, 2053 out. So it's no better than really Ohio or any of those places. South Carolina 833 in, 2140 out. Tennessee 1471 in, 2040 out. Texas has got 5,000 coming out. So you might be able to get a good, decent rate coming out of like maybe Laredo markets. And then Wisconsin's 1309 in 1229. It's good to see Wisconsin in the 4 digits again. This is all van. Whoops. So let's go here and let's take a look at some of the, like Alabama looks good. What does Alabama look like on DAT here? 950 in, 1215 out. Alabama's usually a struggle to get out, but here lately it has been. Arkansas too, 591 in, 1026 out. So Cascade says freight volumes tariff boom could move by intermodal. Show the 123 map for flatbed. Yes, sir. All right. We'll do flatbed and step deck. It's the same. A little bit more yellow in different places. But yeah, I mean, you know this. You and I talked the other day. This is where you need to be. Alabama on the 123 low boards got 2116 outbound. There's more loads in Alabama than there is in Georgia. Actually, there's more loads in Alabama than Texas. Let's take a look at Alabama. This is for flatbed and step deck. So what's your highest rate per mile? A bunch of $500 loads. Here we go. $1,100 for 200 miles, Alabama to Tennessee. $830 on this one. You could probably get a little bit higher on that. $13.80, $5 a mile to go from Alabama to Knoxville. Bunch of 550s. If you can do 2 of those a day, then you're pretty good. 900 to go from Alabama to Georgia. But you see the pattern here. All the higher paying short stuff is Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky. There's one going to Florida. A lot of $3 and $4 mile stuff here. Now let's take a look at the highest rate. Let's see where the long haul's going. 3750 go to Arizona. Arizona's red. You're not going to get much volume out of there. That surprised me. There's nothing going really. Arizona's like the longest one, mileage wise. Everything else, Rhode Island, North Dakota. Here's your load, Cascade. That should probably be a little bit higher, though, I would think. That's the problem with flatbed. I don't know what's good and what's bad, as far as rate wise. But there's your hot market map for flatbed step deck. T-Bone says the lost radiator Friday afternoon, dropped truck about 9:30, had it back by noon Saturday. Got lucky. Well, other than having to pay for a radiator. Yeah. You're welcome, Cascade. Pam, what's up? SST. Alabama Steel. There you go. T-Bone, didn't she just install a radio a year or two ago? Yeah, it might have been a different truck. Flat Alabama to North Dakota should be 4 to 5K. Yeah, I agree with that. So let's go to van here. Let's take a look at let's take a look at Missouri. Let's see what's coming out of here. We got this by highest rate. 3750 go to Massachusetts, almost $3 a mile. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, 3 extra stops out of Moberly. There's several shippers in Moberly. I don't know who that is. These are multiple stops: St. Charles and Fort Myers, Florida. Now they don't pay well to go out west. Here's St. Charles, Goodyear, Arizona. Only $1.73 a mile, $2,600, 2641. 25 to go to Tampa. Wow, 206 a mile. Okay, this is probably a multiple stop though. It's like, wow, they're paying over $2 a mile to go to Texas, but there's 5 stops on this. Must have 16 straps. A rate will be reduced by $18 per strap provided by shipper. So a little bit low on this, I would think. It depends on how many miles and how many days this run takes. $1.95 to go to Utah. Orlando, 218. 270 go to Colorado. That's a little low. Out of St. Louis, that's more shopping carts, probably. Looks like a one and done, though. So sometimes, like Walmart, a supercenter will order all the carts, right? So it's like one stop. Been there, done that. Kansas City to Harrisburg, PA. So, I mean, not bad. I mean, this $1.89 to Maryland, that's no good. Let's take a look at that one. Sarcoxy to Edgemere, Maryland. They're at 21. This is normally around 22 to 25. You're looking at $66 in tolls. It's light. That's good. It is 43% above my cost per day. So if you look at the daily rate, how many miles is this? 11. So it's a hard 2 days, but it's 1,100 a day, right? Or no, 1,050 a day. At posted rate, of course, you want to negotiate. Yeah, like this one, this $1.86 to Pennsylvania, this is no good. No toll costs on this one. Yeah, they're about $500 shy of where this normally runs at. They're about 300 or 400 shy of making this profitable for most trucks. Like here's Webb City, North Las Vegas, $1.50. That's actually better than what I've been seeing. So I have a truck that's trying to get out to Nevada eventually, but so 233 go to Albuquerque, which you're not going to get anything out of there. So in van. Monette to Cleveland. Here's a load I'd probably grab. They're at 1,700. Picks up today. Delivers Friday. So landing in Ohio Friday morning, 8 a.m. That's a good spot. This is a good load here. This is what I would pick. One of the ones I would pick. It is heavy though, but I tend to do a lot of Missouri to Ohio in my own truck. So that's why that one naturally stands out to me. These Texas ones, they're paying a little bit better to go into Texas, but of course these are the shopping cart loads. 213 a mile, Statesville. Now let me show you something here. Earth City, Missouri, which is St. Louis, to Statesville, North Carolina. Now it's paying, like, let's say that we don't know how to negotiate. We're doing this for 213 a mile. Okay. Let's look at outbound. Let's do Statesville. They don't have anything going right back to Missouri, but let's Statesville to anywhere. And let's put this on highest rate per mile. No, highest rate per mile, not rate. So what I look for is equal amounts, right? So if you can get a steady $2 a mile to, and then a steady $2 a mile from, that's better than 250 one direction, 150 the other. And so North Carolina has that potential to do that. Especially which direction you go. So I look for that, right? Like here's Sanford, North Carolina, Bethlehem, PA. Of course, getting out of PA, you're not going to get $2 a mile, but they're at 287. So I mean, there's, and that's what I've been kind of looking at. Like I saw a truck yesterday. He was able to, she was able to get Kentucky to Ohio, Ohio to Tennessee for a pretty equal rate, all consistent, right? So it's kind of nice when you don't really have a backhaul market to even deal with. And North Carolina has that potential. Same thing with Georgia and Alabama. A lot of shopping cart loads, which is kind of good news, really, if you think about it, because that means that stores are not closing. They're replenishing their shopping carts. It's not like like I think Big Lots just kind of didn't Big Lots kind of take it down. Now this load here, I would definitely want more because you're not going to have any good fuel mileage. Yeah, 13% below my cost per day. This is Meta, Missouri to Lansing, which Michigan has not been very well. Shows 40 loads from Lansing to anywhere, 11 Michigan to anywhere. But this is going to be dog food. And any of you who've picked up in Meta, Missouri know that that's not an easy place to get into. And man, that'll work your truck over. And also kind of sharpen your skills a little bit because some of the roads you go down are pretty narrow. And if you've never been to Meta, it's like a big bowl, right? You come across this town. Next thing you know, you're going down this big hill, and on the very bottom of it is the dog food plant. You barely have a phone signal, and then getting out there is a big challenge. There's no easy way in and out as far as like a direct path. It's not like a 2-turn off the interstate warehouse kind of deal. Now, once you're down there in the town, yeah, it's a pretty big area. It's easy to back. They got trailer storage, overnight parking, the whole 9 yards. But it's a challenge to get in there. And how I never pulled a load out of there, but I did drop and pick up trailers there when I was at Schneider. I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm not loaded. So, it's but anyways, they tend to pay a little bit better. So this is kind of low for this load. So T-Bone says, yep, different truck. That's what I thought. My pattern recognition, right? DIY semi, good morning. Cheap freight hauler, good morning. So, I think most of Missouri is remote, like Backroads PA. Not, it depends, right? If you're along the I-70 corridor, it's not too bad. If you're in the Ozarks, like West Plains is right off of 63. Branson is off of 65. Springfield, Joplin, obviously are off of 44, Mount Vernon. But like if you pick up in Boss, Maida, um, Mountain Home, Harrison, Arkansas, that area, that's when it gets a little bit more remote. I remember we had a gig in the middle of nowhere up in around Camdenton, Missouri, and we had friends from Arkansas that were following us because they were playing the gig as well. This little dive bar in the middle of nowhere, and at one point they called us and were like, "Dude, where are you taking us? Like, this is some backwoods stuff." And it was pretty bad that the Arkansas band was telling us we were taking them to backwoods. So, let's see. And see, this is where knowing the volumes will help you. Like, you want a little bit more for this Minneapolis load because Minnesota is a bear to get out. North Dakota, $1.76 a mile. It's kind of low for what you're going to get out of there. If we take a look at this one to Grand Forks, let's look at the outbound here. Yeah, only 12 loads from Grand Forks to anywhere. So I mean, you definitely want to get your rate going if you're doing this, even if you're going home under this load. The Cargo Chiefs got this at about 17. They're trying to push it for 12. And it's probably going to be a 2-day run. So $600 a day for the land in a bad area. That's not a good load. Not a profitable load. It's a challenging load. Whereas I'd rather do this High Hill, Missouri to South Point, Ohio for $210 a mile, 1-day run for $1,100. Picks up Thursday, delivers Friday. So now you're in Ohio on a Friday. I'd rather do this. It's heavy though, so your fuel mileage is going to not be great. Speaking of shopping carts, mini truck, I'm sure you've seen the video of a truck pulling away in the dock and all the carts rolled out. Yeah, it looked like that was at a Target. And what it was probably is that they probably just stored him in that trailer and forgot that they were in there when he pulled out. But like when you pick up shopping carts at a shipper like Wagner, like the cart company in Wagner, they put boards down, they put rope down, they put straps down. It's hard to do that if you do that correctly, right? All right, let's go to Georgia here. $1.55 to go to Washington, $1.65 to Alberta, Oregon. Yeah, see, let's go to highest rate per mile here. My dispatcher's bad news likes New York a lot. This is Ace's Donna's Ice House. I love those shows. They were a charm in and of themselves. They were like basically imagine a dive bar, but everybody was into it because I mean, we're the only entertainment really. Some of my favorite shows were in that place, and there's not the stage. I think was this high. I don't even think there was a stage, but man, it got crazy in there. It was a good time. Good memories. That's the people are like, oh, you're you bummed that your band never went anywhere. No, because I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. But the time that we were together, man, it was great. There was a lot of things I can look back with pride and just it puts a smile on my face. Some of the things that we've done as a band. So just like trucking, there's things I can look back at trucking. I can go, I can do that with a smile. Here we go. Atlanta to Sparta, Tennessee. Dollar or 193 miles for $1,000. Look at this. Picks up at 8 o'clock today, which is probably late. Delivers tomorrow. Oh, delivers today. Well, it says, yeah, so the times might not be right. $1,000. This is something that someone probably fell off. So if it's a working on the delivery, you got to be careful. If this is a grocery warehouse, you make sure you confirm that time because this may look like a 1 day run on the surface, but it may not be. Bunch of stuff going to Florida. Here's another one, Georgia to Tennessee, 650 for 150 miles. Rate check's got it at 784. See where Cargo Chief's at, 802. So you probably get, they'll probably do this at 795 or something. Picks up today, delivers today. So 1 day run for how many miles? 150 miles. So even if you get them only up to 700, that's 700 and you got the rest of the day, depending on what the delivery times are. If this is first come, first serve on each end, man, and you live in this area, this might be a good run. 1,400 to go to Austell, Georgia to Mobile, Alabama. Let's take a look at this one because this is interesting to me. SRAM generally usually pays lower than normal. They're higher than normal. So there must be either multiple stops. It says palletized paper. Picks up today as well. Now let's look at, it's going to Mobile, Alabama. Let's look at what the outbound Mobile is. Look at that, 161 loads. So we click on that. Actually, no, let's, you've got, let's say we want to, there's 27 going right back to Austell, Georgia. Let's click on those. Bunch of 600. Here's 800. That's out of Florida. New Orleans to Morrison, Tennessee, 1,100. So you can get 14 in one direction and 11 in the other. That's a good lane. Now you got to be able to pull heavy if you're going to go to Alabama, because the majority of what's down there is heavy paper, that kind of thing. Here's another one, Atlanta, Murfreesboro. So basically Nashville area, 850, 399 a mile, 213 miles. Another 1 day run for 850. Here's Athens to Fayetteville, North Carolina, 1,300, 393 a mile, 331 miles, easy day drive. Here's one just posted, Adairsville, Georgia to Opelika, Alabama, 600. Probably come up a little bit. Seeing the market. So yeah, the Southeast is the new Midwest, pretty much. Even coming in and out of Florida, you're doing okay. Now, if you're in Florida and you want to try to get into like Nevada or New Mexico or Texas or something like that, you're not going to get money coming out, but you might get a decent rate going up to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. Speaking of, okay, I've already read that. Sorry. Called about a load yesterday. I ran for 1,200 back in January. Agent laughed when I said it. I'd do it for the same I did in January. They covered it for less. Drivers quit taking cheap freight. Yeah, I mean, they've beaten the rates down for the last month and a half, last couple of months, really. And, if where you have a little bit of, well, I'm not going to say that, but what I've noticed is, like, let's pick on one of these loads here. Let's go to Illinois here. Let's pick a shorty. Let's do rate per mile here out of Illinois. All right, let's do this. This one would be an easy one. Wilmington, Illinois to Defiance, Ohio. They're at 850 for how many miles? 240. And let's say you've got a backhaul from Ohio back to Illinois, which would be pretty easy to do. Wouldn't that be pretty easy to accomplish? Let's take a look there. Yeah, see all these numbers down here. They're pretty good. Okay. Let's say we call this load and like, how often do you do these? Oh, we got 2 of these a week. All right. Well, I'll do each one each week. Yeah, one on Monday and one on Wednesday. And 850. They're 850. We ran in this with Sterling, right? When I was running this truck on this short stuff in Ohio. Oh man, the customer's coming down. We're at 800 now. And you're like, well, this is an easy run. It's consistent. I don't have to fight the low board. So you go down to 800. Next thing you know, they're putting it down to 750. Meanwhile, the market has not changed, right? It's almost like a test of loyalty. And then pretty soon you got to be at a point where, like, okay, I can't do that for that. This was worth it at 850. I was compromising 800, but to do these for 700, no. That kind of thing. And I've seen it happen over and over. WCF Invader, I dispatched him part-time. And when I didn't dispatch him is because he found a deal like that, but they kept lowering it every month or so. They would lower it. Meanwhile, the market trend showed no change. And what happens is sometimes as they throw the money at the front of the project, let's say I've got to move 100 of these this month. They'll throw the money in the beginning to get the trucks in there. And then the money gets lowered as you go further into the month. And and people, a broker might say, well, Steve, that's not how it works, but that's how I've seen it work. Over and over and over. It's almost like once you get a dedicated truck, they're like, okay, we need to lower the rate on this. And then they lose their dedicated truck, and then they're back to throwing it for the, more money. And they've lost their consistent carriers, and that's why I value the brokers that value the consistent carrier by giving them a consistent rate. Hey, if I'm going to do 10 of these a month for you, keep it at the same rate. Don't be changing it. And I would think that would make a larger project easier if you can get a carrier on board to do all that versus having to deal with 10 agents, dealing with all the carriers calling on these loads every single time. Does that really help the profit margin? I would, but that's how my brain works. I like consistency over spikes. And so what happens is these big contracts that a lot of these trucking companies have with these big customers, over time, they lower the rate to stay competitive. Oh man, Schneider could come in and do this for X amount. Well, we'll match Schneider's price so they don't lose that freight. Next thing you know, that you've got a whole trucking company running under their cost just to keep this customer happy. And then the trucking company goes out, or the shipper leaves that company anyways. I mean, Amazon is notorious for that. There's several trucking companies that have gone out of business because of Amazon. They lower the rate. It's unsustainable. They can't maintain your expenses, and then they find somebody cheaper anyways. And to me, that's, I don't know, maybe I just look at logistics poorly, but to me, I know it's about having the lowest rate. I know it's about saving costs, but there's got to be some value put on customer service. There's got to be some value on not worrying about your freight being stuck at a way station for a truck being out of service or a wreck, because the drivers were pushed, too hard and became reckless, or pulling ELD. So you lose the carrier because, the government shuts them down. Like I would, and I have. There's a shipper that I deal with, or a broker that has a shipper that love consistency, and so we give them above and beyond service, and that makes a lot of money for the company because they value the relationship, because their freight isn't your simple two turns off the interstate, one and done stuff. And I get it, when you're trying to ship, 500 loads of water in a time period, yeah, you're going to want the lowest bidder, but at the same time, to post all those on a low board would be, I would think, would be, if you gave a little bit more money and had a carrier that could sustain that, then I think that would make it easier. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to logistics. Maybe I am clueless. But we live in a world where common sense is frowned upon. Some brokers are like Comcast, great rate when you're new to them, but the longer you stay, the more you get screwed. Yeah, we just got rid of our satellite because it just got. Oh, but if I threaten to quit, they're like, oh, we'll shave $35 off your bill now. So 12 years of service didn't mean anything to them, right? SST says, don't everyone come south now. We're finally get rid of the COVID refugees. Cascade says, if they can't move, they pay more. The problem is we can't sit all. They have bills to pay if we get the non-domicile CDL English language fix, we get the capacity balance that will help rates. Oh, like contract freight stream. Yeah, I mean, you can find the brokers with the contract freight. And, look, for example, there's a broker that has freight that comes out of Boonville, Missouri, and it goes to either Clarksville or Searcy Sam's Club. Light loads, they were always above market rate. Always. And when I went and talked to the shipper one time, they told me that this broker, they've been working with them for years. And you know what? They never have trouble moving them. And I would think that serves both sides, or three sides really: the broker, the shipper, and the carrier. Good morning, Steve. I just got home after flying to Vancouver to evaluate a customer's branch. They were going to close. What a disaster! Mismanagement of inventory, so much to be trashed. That's sad. Buck Brown, good morning. Trucking's like the weather. Give it 5 minutes, it'll change. Key is to be prepared. That's true. Shannon, good to see you. Thanks for joining us this late. So I mean that's kind of where we're at, right? So we're at this for almost an hour. Let's take a look at the reefer map, and then we're going to end this video. Looks like a checkerboard, so that's good. A lot more green. Of course, with the report I showed earlier, reefer's almost in the neutral zone, so that's good. CDN freight broker says, I have another customer. I'm getting a bunch of loads, but the shipping manager at consignee says all this inbound loads is 2 to 3 yes inventory and will expire. Company's wasting money. Supply chain. Whoops. Sure, that's to be continued. Good morning. Sorry I'm late. Busy night, Gary. So supply chain because it's Cascade, because shipper and broker both take a hit to provide a quality service. I value consistency. And I know, like, oh, you shouldn't go in the spot market if you don't like, the the roller coaster. Well, I mean, you can enjoy a roller coaster that's not as roller coastery. I mean, you can create a little bit of a level field. And that's what I try to do for the drivers that I dispatch. Is I try to create a level, like, okay, we're going to get X amount per day every day, because think about it. If you can manage, look, here's if you can manage $1,000 a day in van and drive between 300 to 500 miles a day, you're not killing your clock. You're not killing, you're staying, you never run out of your 70. You're probably not hitting a bad backhaul market. Okay. It's easier on the truck. It's easier on you. Why wouldn't you want that? Right? What good is it if I can make $2,000 on a 1-day run, but then have to deadhead a full day just to get out of there? Well, you're not at $2,000 a day. You're still at $1,000 a day, depending on where you're going. But maybe where you're going, you're still not going to get $1,000 a day because it's such a bad backhaul market. So I'm all about consistency. I'm all about loyalty. But that's not how businesses run these days. It's either all or none. You're either feast or famine. And I'm telling you, feast or famine is hard on the psyche. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your mind. It's hard on your soul. CNN says supply mismanagement. Companies buyers are having buy on prediction and great waste. Lesson is you need to know your numbers. Great BOL management. Don't let problems build up. That's true for anybody, right? Red Lady, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for your membership. Cheap Freight Hauler, good morning. Says good morning to you. So, I mean, that's consistency. You can create that in the spot market. I've seen drivers here do it at the company. I've done it. I didn't find myself. Now, at Landstar, I found myself going to Colorado. I found myself going to New Mexico. I found myself going to Phoenix. I found myself going to El Paso for that good rate. I found myself in Florida several times. And so when I came into the spot market, I knew I had to, that was the thing about Schneider. I was able to stay consistent. I can get equal amounts of money going from Missouri, Ohio, to Illinois, to Indiana, to Wisconsin, to Texas even, right? I was consistent. And so when I came back to the spot market, I was like, I got to create some consistency. And first load I booked went to Florida for that big money, right? It was one of the first loads I booked. And I found myself in that feast or famine pattern. So Jeff called me and goes, hey, man, what are you struggling with? It's about consistency. And he had to reiterate that to me. And so I just treat each load board the same way as I did at Schneider. Where can I be consistent both directions? Now, do we take loads to Florida at times? Yes. But, that's kind of where we're at, right? So it's consistency is key. Because when everybody's cashing in on the spikes and burn each other for, the $5 mile freight, and there's no loyalty anymore, then that could be a challenge. Because when things come crashing down, then no one wants to work with you. Now, if you enjoy the hunt, you enjoy the chase, you enjoy I'm going to be in Washington next week, and I'm going to be in Florida next week, and then I'll be in upstate New York the week after that. If you're into that, then that's fine, but you can still create consistency in that realm as well. I always laugh when cheap freight hauler. I always laugh when I see a driver bragging about getting $4 to Miami and then deadheading out because they don't haul cheap freight. Right, and at the end of the day, they're still at $2 a mile, right? And they lost a day, so you're burning up your clock with no money coming in. And I'm telling you, I've seen it, I've witnessed it. Georgia, Florida you can make money there, but $4 times 600 miles equals $2 times 1,200 miles once you deadhead home, right? Now, fuel savings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Grab that buck a mile, $1.10 a mile, back up, protect the profit from the first load, and you're good to go. Shannon says she loves adventuring. Well, you need an adventure to Nevada, what you need. So you endorsing Schneider and SFI International high weekly payments? I endorse no high weekly payments. I don't endorse that at all. But Schneider had consistent freight. I had no problems over there, really. I mean, the only reason why I left is because Jeff gave me an opportunity that I'm now basking in. So, but anyways, I think we're going to end this. Thanks for watching. 48065 if you want to try out the 123 low board for free. Don't take my word for it. Let me answer this question. What's the hot shot market look like? Nothing. Yeah, it's not even gonna. No, hot shot is a losing game. Do I support being high weekly? Yeah, high on life. All right, but anyways, let me get rid of this. 48065, you want to try out the low board for free. I do have a website, snorelord.net. So check it out. Look at my pretty truck that I used to have. And anyways, if you're interested in coming to Like Trucking, whether you got your own truck or you're interested in Shannon's second truck, Shannon's truck might have a candidate, but I still have to talk to Shannon. But at any rate, we're always looking for contractors. So www.liketrucking.com. And anyways, hopefully we'll see you Friday. We'll see what Friday volumes look like. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow, and aggression turns to screws. Be smart, be safe. Consistency is key. Peace.